Going to testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being and is going to pay. I think that I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Promised to show the then teenager how to, quote, go buck full.
For the next 48 hours, tightened his jaw, and everyone could feel the tension rise when Justin Bieber's name was mentioned.
Name echoed through the room.
What you're about to see is the exact
witness is the exact moment when Diddy lost control during day 2 of the trial, right after learning that Justin
had openly supported Cassie. Security had to step in, and what happened next even shocked the judge.
The person that the you of then was on a path of self-destruction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully, but yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful...
Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie For the Times of Their Lives? Like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full.
Young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun. Now, all of a sudden, he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did. The allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher. As we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew. This was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to, allegedly up to? That seems to be very clear.
Day 2 began with a strange calm in the courtroom. Diddy walked in with his expensive legal team.
Closely at his eyes, something was just off.
At his eyes, something felt
Very
off.
few artists that I would love to help more than you.
Like
I love helping you.
And I love morning either. They added extra guards near Celebrity Trial, Diddy's table, not the usual setup for a select. One guard stood directly behind his chair, another by the aisle.
Do something.
One guard stood right behind his chair,
the music
and another stood by the aisle.
Been mostly ballads.
It felt like they had been warned that
we're
something
pushing this
might
one
happen.
as a single.
Then Cassie walked in.
Nothing flashy, but it made a statement.
She wore a simple
Her
black
friends
dress
formed
with a
this
white
protective
collar.
circle around her,
Nothing flashy,
walking her to
but
her
it made a
seat like
strong
bodyguards.
statement.
The contrast
Her
was
friends
clear.
circled around her like
Diddy with
bodyguards as
interesting
they walked her
part,
to her seat.
did security,
The difference was
Cassie with
clear.
loyal friends.
Diddy had
The
hired
really
security,
interesting couldn't stop checking his
Cassie
phone.
had
He
loyal
kept
friends.
pulling it out, scrolling with
The
his
most
thumb,
interesting thing,
then his face would get
Diddy
darker
couldn't
each
stop
time.
checking his
At
phone.
one point, his lawyer
He kept
actually had
pulling
to
it
reach
out
over and
scrolling
take
with
it
his
from
thumb.
him.
and each
That's
time
when I
his
noticed
face got
Diddy's
darker.
hand was shaking.
At one point,
Meanwhile, the prosecution team was acting super weird. They kept passing notes and whispering behind folders. One prosecutor would show something on her tablet to another, and they'd both nod like they just got the final piece of a puzzle. They knew something big was coming. Diddy's main lawyer tried calming him down at least 3 times before the judge even arrived. He'd lean over, say something in Diddy's ear, and put his hand on Diddy's shoulder. But Diddy wasn't having it. He shrugged the guy off every time, once so hard that the lawyer actually had to steady himself on the table. When the judge walked in, her face told the whole story. On day 1, she was all business but relaxed. Today, she looked like a principal who just got told the troublemaker was planning something bad. Her eyes went straight to Diddy's table, and she whispered something to her clerk that made him nod and pick up his phone. What nobody in that room knew yet was that Diddy had seen something on social media just minutes before court. He'd seen what Justin Bieber posted. The bailiff called everyone to order, and you could feel that started. Something that would make him completely lose it in front of everyone. His team tried to hide his phone, but it was too late. He'd already the tension building with every word. The jurors must have felt it too because they kept looking at each other, confused, bouncing under the table, a vein enthused about why everyone seemed on edge. One juror even asked for water, her hand visibly shaking as she took the cup. Diddy sat there, his leg and forehead starting to show. His lawyer kept placing legal papers in front of him, trying to distract him, but Diddy just pushed them away. He stared straight ahead, his breathing getting heavier by the minute. It was like watching someone try to hold back,
trying to distract him. But Diddy pushed them away. He stared straight ahead, breathing harder by the minute. It was like watching someone try not to explode. Everyone in the courtroom knew something was about to happen. We just didn't know what it would be or how bad. The clock on the wall seemed to tick louder as everyone waited
for the inevitable. Diddy's perfect image was about to shatter in front of the entire courtroom.
Yeah. So, yeah. I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, I mean, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, you know, and like.
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, like, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life. So.
Meantime, let's talk about the fact that Combs' co-defendant in a civil case, a case, by the way, that accuses him and this co-defendant, another A-lister, of rape. This guy is once again slamming the attorney behind the case, insisting that he be sanctioned for allegedly not doing his job. We're talking, of course, about Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, once again calling out attorney Tony Busby, calling out his character, more specifically into question, claiming that the Texas attorney's filings have, quote, substantial. Now, we've talked about this before, but basically, a civil lawsuit was filed against Sean Combs on behalf of a Jane Doe who says that she was raped by Combs and another celebrity at a home after the Video Music Awards in 2000.
Interview 2. Vlog on
While
Justin's
everyone was
YouTube
focused
channel,
on the drama
in which
in court,
Diddy promised to show the then teenager
Justin
how to, quote,
Bieber
go
dropped a
buck
social
full
media
crazy.
bomb that
Where we
no one
hanging
saw
out and what
coming.
we doing.
Right in the middle of the trial,
we can't really
Bieber posted a
disclose.
message supporting Cassie.
To the music industry and into that courtroom. The whole thing hit especially hard because Bieber and Diddy go way back. Remember those videos of teenage Bieber hanging out at Diddy's parties? Diddy used to call himself Justin's mentor and big brother. He even bragged about helping shape Bieber's career. That history made this public statement feel like the ultimate betrayal. This wasn't some vague sending love and support message either. Bieber got specific. He wrote about being at industry parties where he personally witnessed Diddy's behavior toward Cassie. He mentioned seeing Diddy grab Cassie's arm too hard at an after-party in 2015. He described Diddy cutting Cassie off mid-sentence and speaking for her during interviews. These weren't rumors. These were first-hand observations. During the first court recess, The post spread like wildfire. People in the courthouse hallways huddled in groups, showing each other their phones. One court officer had to remind everyone to turn their devices off before re-entering. Legal assistants printed screenshots for attorneys to review. Even some jurors looked confused by all the hallway whispers, clearly sensing something major had happened. The post included this powerful old photo that spoke volumes. It showed Bieber and Cassie at some music event from years ago, both smiling. But if you looked at Cassie's eyes, there was something there. Bieber's caption said he'd always respected Cassie's strength and was sorry I didn't speak up sooner.
Sorry I didn't speak up sooner. For Diddy, the timing couldn't have been worse. Bieber's 270 million followers saw the post within minutes, and news sites started running headlines right away. This wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore. A massive star with real influence was taking a clear side during a live trial. Court reporters went wild. One woman actually ran out of the room to call her editor. Another typed like crazy on her laptop. A reporter from a major network mouthed,
"Did you see it?" The whispers got so loud that one of the bailiffs had to ask people to quiet down. People kept showing each other their phones like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some looked directly at Diddy, trying to figure out if he knew yet. Others watched Cassie, who maintained perfect composure despite surely hearing the commotion. What made Bieber's statement so powerful was the specific language he used. He called Cassie brave and truthful and wrote that certain behaviors I witnessed years ago troubled me deeply, but I didn't understand the pattern.
It was basically because I was just in a weird
behaviors I witnessed
place,
years ago
dude,
troubled me deeply.
I felt it in my soul. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and
he even said he was disappointed in himself for not seeing the control and power. Games that now seem so clear. Diddy's lawyer saw the post first and immediately went into damage control. He physically blocked Diddy from seeing another lawyer's phone and whispered urgently to get all the devices off the table.
I was so lost. I'm like,
Someone
let me
had
try to
already shown
revisit
Diddy
my
the
thing.
screen.
But
His
I did
eyes
it
locked onto it
with
and
these
went
people
wide.
because I know
And in
that their
moment,
view
everyone
on
close
their
enough saw his
faith
whole
is so
face
much
change.
different than most Christians.
already too
Most
late.
Christians are like
18 years old, and I should mention he was signed by Usher to a label that was owned jointly by both Scooter Braun and Usher, and he was considered Usher's protege. He has been described Usher as his mentor. The Bieber, Justin Bieber, is continuing the purge. He has now moved to his original mentor. So this is a very big story, and the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing, Hollywood Babylon, that is. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing, and if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything. Protect Billie Eilish from what? From who?
When Diddy saw Bieber's post, his face changed instantly, like someone flipped a switch. First came pure shock. His eyes went wide, and his mouth hung open. Then his eyebrows tightened as the betrayal sank in. But the scariest part was watching that shock turn into rage. His nostrils flared, and his jaw clenched so tight it looked like he might crack his teeth. A woman sitting 3 rows back later told reporters that Diddy's hands were shaking uncontrollably. He tried to grab some papers his lawyer handed him, but he couldn't hold them. They slipped through his fingers and fell to the floor. That's when everyone started watching closely. The first real warning came when Diddy suddenly stood up. It wasn't a normal stretch. It was quick and aggressive. The bailiff, who had been keeping an eye on him all morning, immediately stepped forward. You could tell this wasn't his first time dealing with someone about to lose control in court. Then Diddy said something people in the front rows could hear clearly. "After everything I did for that kid, loyalty means nothing anymore." Then he said something about consequences, and his lawyer quickly grabbed his arm and pulled him back into his seat. The lawyer whispered something urgently, but Diddy just shook his head. His breathing got heavy, like he'd just run up a flight of stairs. Court sketches from that moment were honestly intense. The artist captured Diddy's face perfectly. Bulging eyes, clenched jaw, neck veins popping out. One sketch artist even said she had never drawn anyone looking so intense in her 12 years of covering trials. The prosecutors didn't miss any of it. The lead prosecutor made a small hand signal to her assistant, who quietly left the courtroom. Later, we learned she went to tell their team to call a key witness earlier than planned, someone who could talk about exactly what Bieber had said in his post. The security guards in the courtroom started communicating silently with their eyes. 2 of them moved slightly closer to Diddy's table, trying not to draw attention. One guard even unclipped something on his belt, not pulling a weapon, just getting ready in case he needed to act fast. Diddy's entire attitude had changed. On day 1 and earlier that morning, he was calm and confident, sitting up straight and even taking notes. Now he was a different person, fidgeting, rubbing his face, loosening his tie like it was choking him. Then came the moment that made things worse. Diddy slammed his hand on the table, knocking over a glass of water that shattered on the floor. People jumped from the noise. Then he whispered something that court reporters nearby clearly heard. "I'll make sure he never works in this town again. Neither of them will." His lawyer had to put an arm around his shoulders to keep him in the seat. The judge wasn't having it. She slammed her gavel and called for a 15-minute break. But that break only gave Diddy more time to stew in his anger. His legal team circled around him, their faces filled with panic. Those 15 minutes turned out to be exactly what Diddy didn't need. More time to get even more upset. After the recess, Cassie came back changed. She walked to the witness stand with her shoulders back and her head high. Unlike day 1, she didn't stare at the floor. She looked straight at the jury. She didn't avoid Diddy's eyes either. It was like he didn't matter to her anymore. Her testimony started with new evidence no one had seen before. The prosecution showed text messages from Diddy to Cassie that shocked the courtroom. In one 2016 exchange, Diddy sent 17 texts in a row, demanding to know why she hadn't answered. Another message asked where she was, down to the room number in a hotel. "I need to know where you are every minute," one message said. "That's the deal if you want to keep your career." The room was so quiet, you could hear the ceiling. Fans. Cassie described how Diddy controlled who she could talk to in the music business. "He had a list of male artists I wasn't allowed to speak to unless he was there," she said. One of them was Justin Bieber. "When I asked why, he told me not to question him. When I did anyway, he grabbed my arm at an after-party and whispered that I'd regret it." Cassie's voice never shook. She spoke clearly, describing how she was isolated, watched, and controlled. Everything she said matched what Bieber had posted online. The control, the public silence, the private threats. Each new detail backed up Bieber's story, even though Cassie said she hadn't spoken to him in years. When the prosecutor asked why she hadn't come forward sooner, Cassie's answer hit hard. "He told me no one would believe me. He said he controlled who got to work in this industry and who didn't. I saw him make calls that ended people's careers." 2 jurors visibly reacted. One woman wiped away tears, and an older man scribbled a note and underlined it 3 times. Then came the bombshell. Prosecutors played hotel security footage from 2018. It showed Cassie trying to speak with a male artist in a hotel lobby. Diddy appeared, put his arm around her, and led her away. The body language matched exactly what she had just described. Diddy leaned over to his lawyer, whispering fast and pointing at the screen. Cassie kept giving exact details, dates, places, names. March 8, 2017, at the Standard Hotel in New York. June 22, 2017, at Diddy's house in Miami. September 12, 2018, backstage at the VMAs. Each time she said a date, Diddy's lawyer flipped through his notes, looking more and more stressed. Cassie said other people who were once scared to speak up were now reaching out. "My phone hasn't stopped," she said. "People are ready to tell what they saw." Then came the line that pushed Diddy over the edge. Cassie said that after she once spoke with Bieber at an industry party, Diddy pulled her aside and said, Even Justin knows what happens to people who cross me. Now that Bieber was publicly backing her, that old threat looked terrifying. As Cassie continued, Diddy fell apart more and more. Every time she said something that matched Bieber's story, he fidgeted, whispered urgently to his lawyer, and looked like he was unraveling. The confident music mogul everyone once knew was disappearing right in front of the entire courtroom.
And weeks after the initial filing, Busby submitted an amended complaint naming Jay-Z as the celebrity who allegedly participated. They wanted copies of these videos for themselves. And I've talked to lawyers about this before. There's a big advantage to having the electronic video, the electronic evidence yourself, right? You don't have to always go over to the other office. You can view the materials on your own. It's a way to better prepare for your defense. And Sean Combs' lawyers argue that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, electronic data that is in the government's possession. Judge Subramanian denied the defense's motion to amend the protective order, but without prejudice, meaning this issue could be revisited. So Subramanian's order reads, quote, while the government objects to handing the videos over, they provide several options for a defendant to consider that would permit the defense to view the videos, access the information they're looking for, and even allow them to manipulate the videos.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they loved me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make a difference.
Just when everyone thought things couldn't get more serious, the prosecutor walked to the middle of the courtroom with a folder. Your Honor, we want to show evidence that proves Mr. Combs is wrong when he says Ms. Ventura made up these claims recently. She took out her tablet and connected it to the courtroom's display system. Screens around the room lit up showing text messages between Justin Bieber and Cassie from 2017. The prosecutor zoomed in on one message that made several jurors lean forward. Cassie had written, I don't know what to do anymore. He watches everything, she added. He said if I talk to anyone, he'll make sure I never work again. Bieber's reply said, this isn't normal, Cass. What he's doing isn't right. You need to talk to someone who can help. As soon as those messages appeared, Diddy jumped up from his chair. The sound of it scraping the floor shocked everyone. His face turned red and his eyes grew wide. The calm music boss was gone. His lawyer grabbed his arm, whispering, Sean, don't do this, loud enough for the front rows to hear. But Diddy pushed the lawyer's hand away so hard the man almost fell back. This is all lies, Diddy shouted, pointing at Cassie. You know that's not true. Where is your loyalty after all I did for you? You're making this up, both of you. The judge immediately hit her gavel 3 times. Mr. Combs, sit down now or I will have you removed. Her voice cut through the noise like a sharp knife. But Diddy didn't stop. 2 security guards quickly moved to the defense table. One stood between Diddy and Cassie, while the other came up from behind. Court reporters typed fast, capturing every word of this unexpected scene. The jury watched in shock. One older woman in the back covered her mouth. A young man in the front leaned away from Diddy, keeping distance. Your Honor, we need a break, Diddy's lawyer shouted, trying to control the situation. But Diddy turned to the screen, pointing at the messages. Those are fake. They made up those messages. He waved his hands wildly, his voice echoing in the room. This is a setup. Justin never said that. The evidence was very bad for Diddy's case. These messages from 5 years ago showed Cassie had told Bieber about the same bad behavior, long before she filed any lawsuit. The judge hit her gavel again. Remove the jury immediately, she ordered the bailiff. The 12 jurors left, many staring at Diddy, who kept shouting. The guards stood one on each side of him. Sir, calm down now. one said, firmly putting a hand on Diddy's shoulder. For a moment, it looked like Diddy might push the guard too. But he finally stopped, breathing hard, the reality hitting him. The damage was done. The controlled image Diddy kept for years was broken in front of everyone. With the guards standing close, the world saw a very different side of the music boss, making Cassie's claims seem more true. With the jury gone, Judge Marlowe stood and pointed at Diddy, giving him a harsh warning. Mr. Combs, this is a court of law, not a recording studio. You do not control what happens here. Her voice was sharp. One more outburst like that and I will hold you in contempt. You will spend the rest of this trial in jail, coming out only when needed. She wasn't finished. The judge ordered a mental health check before the next day's hearing. She also set new security rules. 2 officers had to stay close to Diddy at all times. His lawyers couldn't even talk to him without a guard nearby. His phone was taken away completely. Diddy's legal team gathered in the courtroom corner, looking like a football team losing badly. The lead lawyer kept shaking his head. Another made hurried calls. A third took notes and kept looking at Diddy with worried eyes that said, "We are in big trouble." Their body language showed they knew their case just got much worse. When the jury came back, their reactions were clear. A middle-aged woman moved her chair away from the defense table. An older man who took notes now crossed his arms, not writing. The most telling was juror number 8, a young professional who smiled at Diddy on day 1, but now would not look at him. The prosecution stayed calm, but clearly pleased. The lead prosecutor arranged her papers and looked at Diddy with satisfaction. Her assistant even hid a small smile. For the rest of the day, security didn't joke around. 2 officers stood right behind Diddy's chair, not pretending to be relaxed. Another stood by the courtroom door, hand on his belt. The message was clear. No more chances for Diddy's bad behavior. Legal experts in the gallery couldn't hide their thoughts. A former federal prosecutor whispered to someone, "He lost. Right there." Law professors watching wrote fast in their notebooks. Another defense lawyer from a big case shook his head and muttered, "Amateur hour." Through all this, Cassie stayed calm and strong. She sat straight with hands folded, face showing no fear. When Diddy yelled, she didn't flinch or react, not giving him any satisfaction. The difference was clear. Her control versus his loss of control. By the end of day 2, things changed a lot. Diddy had walked in confident with a sharp suit and smile. Now he left with his tie loose, surrounded by tired lawyers who looked years older. His eyes stayed down, avoiding reporters in the hall. The most telling moment was when his main lawyer put a hand on Diddy's back to guide him out. Diddy shrugged it off, just like that morning. But now it was not confidence. It was defeat. What we saw was not just about evidence, but character. Cassie stayed strong while Diddy fell apart. When Justin Bieber took her side, their true selves showed under pressure. The jury saw Diddy lose control and threaten people in court. That moment probably decided the case. No matter what else happens, the biggest question now is who else will speak out. Justin Bieber broke the unspoken rule of protecting celebrities. That door is now open, and more stars might come forward against Diddy.